Well, the Taliban are a creation of the Pakistani state, historically. The use of religious militias by the Pakistani state goes back right to the creation of the country in 1948. The first time the Taliban religious groups from the tribal areas were mobilized in the name of religion was right after the creation of Pakistan in order to attack India in Kashmir, in order to occupy Kashmir. That was the first time the slogans of jihad were raised in Pakistan. That was not done by the US in 1978 when the Russians invaded. So that's, supporting religious militias and supporting militant religion is a core factor of Pakistan's ideology and its military policy. Pakistan has been supporting these groups in Afghanistan as early as 1974. You cannot just pin the blame entirely on imperialism. There's a lot of dogmatic analysis that is all just America's intervention that is causing the trouble. Yes, America's intervention has caused a lot of trouble. But in this case, particularly in Afghanistan and Pakistan, the role of Pakistan is crucial in destroying Afghanistan and destabilizing the regions. Pakistan was supporting the Taliban for its own reasons. Saudi Arabia was funding the Taliban, right? So if the policy of Pakistan does not change and Saudi policy also does not change, you can have Americans leave Afghanistan, but the situation would go back to what it was before. So America definitely needs to change its policy too, but crucially in this context, Pakistan also needs to change its policy. Otherwise, nothing can improve in that country, in that region. Domination of Punjab over all the other provinces, that's a fundamental problem of Pakistan, because all this religious militancy has come out of that. Because Punjab wants to counter other provinces and other nationalities and other nationalisms inside Pakistan through using religion, not only in terms of ideology, but also in terms of militantly supporting groups who can crush nationalist insurgencies in other provinces, which is, for example, happening now in the Balochistan province. So there needs to be social reform in Pakistan. Also, Pakistan needs to democratize, and the domination of Punjab province needs to end, and other provinces need to be given more power so that some of the regressive trends could be countered. But that's a huge process, and there are no easy answers to it apart from that. There's a huge contradiction in Pakistan, because on one hand it wants to combat the Taliban, but at the same time it also wants to support some Taliban elements in Afghanistan. So it's a dichotomy in Pakistan of what's called good Taliban and the bad Taliban. So the good Taliban are those who fight for us in Afghanistan. Bad Taliban are those who fight against us. So we can combat the bad Taliban and let the good Taliban do the work for us. Taliban have morphed into an independent movement as well, and Pakistan does not have the same amount of control as it did, let's say, in 1996 or throughout the 90s when it was supporting the insurgency in Afghanistan. So that's a dilemma that Pakistan is facing now. These groups that it has been supporting for so long are now become independent and becoming more assertive onto the society and also against the Pakistani army and the state. So it is true that people in Pakistan will look towards the army for some sort of protection and some sort of way to counter the Taliban, because the Taliban are a very strongly armed force. They have like, after the Pakistani army, the strongest and the richest armed force in the country is the Taliban. In Pakistan, there needs to be some sort of coercive measures need to be taken against the Taliban, but at the same time, who takes it? The army takes it, but is the army any better than the Taliban? In many ways, it is not. In fact, in many ways, it is much worse. So that's a dilemma that is being faced by Pakistanis as well, as to, we might need to use some sort of coercion against the Taliban, but the only force capable of doing that is the army, which is a brutal army in its own way. There's an insurgency going on right now in the Balochistan province of Pakistan, where the army is using brutal tactics to crush the insurgency. The Pakistani army has kidnapped 20,000 people in Balochistan. And that's a huge number in 10 years, and completely destroyed the place and killing people for sport. The Pakistani army has launched a mission for a long time in North Waziristan, but the effects of their invasion is immense. I think around 1 million people have been displaced. There is nowhere for them to go. Actually, they are escaping into Afghanistan. That is how bad things are, that you go in a war-torn country to take refuge. Because there's no arrangement by the civil government to take care of those refugees and rehabilitate them or recompensate them. The question of absence of state and the rise of extremist forces, Europe is a perfect example. the rise of fascism and fascist forces in Europe is directly linked to the failure of the establishment. I mean, if you look at France, the National Front, the Front National, is becoming stronger and stronger. And their platform is that, well, this capitalism is failing us, austerity is failing us, we need a strong state, we need like strong social services. We need it for white people, yes, not for immigrants. But I mean, the discourse is somewhat socialist and somewhat Marxist, but ethno-socialist for French people, not for immigrants. So the rise of right-wing forces in Europe is linked to austerity and the retrenchment of the state and social service and the failure of the established parties. And that can be linked to other parts of the country, world, as well as the Arab world or Pakistan, where the state is absent and the only one entering that void are different extremist forces. For example, in Pakistan, a lot of relief work is done by religious groups, right? They help go and help the people, but they also spread their message, right? If you look at the refugee situation in Pakistan now, there are like almost 1 million refugees because of the current operation in North Waziristan by the army. But who is doing the relief work? It's the religious groups who are doing the relief work. And it is happening that they're doing the relief work and they're recruiting people at the same time. So they go and do the charity and set up tents, but they also recruit people to send them to Syria. Pakistani jihadi contingent in Syria is quite strong. Some of the strongest contingents in Syria are from Pakistan. And I'm guessing they're also present in Iraq at the moment. So yeah, so these charities are recruiting people from there in places where the state is absent. And this is a huge constituency for religious groups to recruit from places and people where the state is absent and where they depend on religious forces. So yeah, for example, Mother says religious schools, people can go to state schools because they don't exist. The only place where they could get an education, not just that, but also some social services, because if you go to religious school, you can lodge and board and have food, takes pressure away from family. And yeah, then people get recruited into different activities. So the absence of the state is crucial in Pakistan. Yeah.